As the Democratic National Convention kicks off in Chicago, the Trump campaign is making stops in key battleground states this week, starting with Pennsylvania. The former president gave remarks on the economy earlier today at a manufacturing facility in York. He later spoke exclusively to CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns about the race for the White House and the key issue of abortion rights.
Will you accept the results of this election?
Absolutely. I assume it's going to be a fair election. If it's going to be a fair and free election, the answer is absolutely I will.
What does fair mean to you?
It means the votes are counted. It means that votes are fair. It means that they don't cheat on the election. They don't drop ballots. They don't install new rules and regulations that they don't have the power to do. They don't use 51 intelligence agents to give phony reports, which had an effect on the election. They don't do many of the things that they did in the last election.
If you lose this election, will it have been legitimate?
If I see that we had a fair and free election, which I hope to be able to say, but if I see that, you will never see anybody more honorable than me. I'm an honorable person. You see the report that came out on Biden today from Congress with all of the money that was stolen.
But you didn't accept the results of the last election.
Well, that's right, because there were many problems with the last election. You know it.
Even though all of the legal cases were dropped.
No, they weren't brought because the judges wouldn't take them because they said it was after the election. Well, how else are you going to find out cheating until after the election? I think things have been done over the last 4-year period that will make this a free and fair election. And certainly, if for some reason I lose, and I think if I lose, this country will go into a tailspin, the likes of which it's never seen before, the likes of 1929. But if I do, and it's free and fair, absolutely I will accept the results.
We are 1 month removed from the assassination attempt on your life.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you are suffering any PTSD from that experience.
No, not at all. But I do, in thinking about it, it's a miracle that I wasn't killed, as you know. You saw the flight of the bullet and everything else. You saw, they say, an eighth of an inch away, an eighth of an inch. And there has to be a reason. And I do believe in God. I also believe perhaps God had a purpose that he wants to save this country. And I think that may have really been a reason. We have to save our country. Our country is going bad. We're a failed nation. We're failing very badly. You just take a look at the mess that's happening right now in Chicago. The answer is it was a very close call. An eighth of an inch, and I wouldn't be talking to you right now. And I think God has a reason for doing things, and his reason might very well be that he wants to save this country, maybe save the world.
Have you suffered any other kinds of effects?
No, not at all. I haven't. I mean, I got better. I healed well, and I haven't. But it could have been very bad.
I want to ask you about the Supreme Court. Are you going to release a list of Supreme Court nominees that you would pick?
Yes, I will.
Anybody that's on that list right now?
I'll be releasing it, I'd say, over the next 3 or 4 weeks. I think the Democrats should do the same thing, but I'll be releasing. Last time I released a list of approximately 25 people, and I picked from that list. I think it's an important thing to do. I will be releasing a list over the next probably month or so.
You were influential in picking 3 Supreme Court justices to overturn Roe v. Wade. Do you have any regrets about the overturning of Roe v. Wade?
Well, they've wanted to overturn it for 52 years. For 52 years, they've worked to overturn Roe v. Wade. They wanted to bring it back to the states. All legal scholars, all Democrats, everybody wanted to bring it back. This is for years and decades and decades. And they brought it back to the states. And now the states are controlling it. It's in the hands of the states. And people are voting. And frankly, I believe in the exceptions, like Ronald Reagan believed in the exceptions. I think most people, most Republicans do believe in the exceptions. And we are having a great response. Ohio voted. And by the way, they voted more liberally than some people would have thought. Kansas voted. Many of the states have voted or in the process of voting. And what it did is it brought it back to the states and allows the people to vote. And we can, after 52 years, we can clean up something that frankly has been a very hot bone of contention. We want to unify our country. And people have different thoughts on it and all. And I will say this, that in some cases it was a more liberal vote or a more progressive vote than some of these states would have thought. And in some cases, perhaps it'll be the other. But It's now in the hands of the people. And again, Democrats and Republicans, everybody wanted to do this for 52 years, and I got it done. And we should never be in the federal government. The federal government should have nothing to do with this issue. And it's being solved at a state level, and people are very happy about it.
So no regrets?
No regrets, no. I wouldn't have regrets. Again, I did something that most people felt undoable. They didn't want it in the federal government. It shouldn't be in the halls of the federal government. It should be in the state governments. And I was able to bring it back to the state governments, and now the people are voting. And again, they're voting in many cases with the exceptions, the 3 exceptions, like Ronald Reagan, like myself.
As president, would you enforce the Comstock Act, which could prohibit the sale of or the distribution of medication abortion by mail?
No, we will be discussing specifics of it, but generally speaking, no, I wouldn't.
You would not enforce the Comstock Act?
I would not do that.
Should medication abortion be widely available?
Well, it's going to be available, and it is now. And as I know it, the Supreme Court has said, keep it going the way it is. I will enforce and agree with the Supreme Court, but basically they've said keep it the way it is now.
CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns joins me now with that great interview. I can only imagine sort of on the spot and being able to ask those questions about policy one after the next. Caitlin, let me ask you this, though. You know, the former president's view on abortion, is it in line, do you think, with the rest of the party? He talked very clearly about the Comstock Act, as you mentioned, and saying that certain things are legal and he doesn't really plan to change that. But how in line with what he said to you is in line with the rest of the party?
You know, Drika, it's fascinating to me because this was something that Republicans wanted, the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And it was just notable a month ago in their convention, rarely anybody mentioned it there because they know it's a liability for them in the general election here. And what's important to note, too, is that our own polling shows that majorities of voters are concerned about what these kinds of restrictions on abortion in these states have on people who are currently pregnant and what it means for their women's care, just physical care. So this is a defining issue in this election. And it was clear from that interview that Donald Trump doesn't want to say how he would vote on Florida's own measure to make it constitutionally legal to have abortion access in Florida. But he also said, Jerika, that he has no regrets about the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I asked him twice. He said no regrets about that. So that's significant to note. But this is an issue that is an animating force for Democrats and also for independent voters and possibly those, moderate voters that he's going to need to win over here, who are seeing the effects of some of these restrictions in their states.
The former president has not been shy to step up to the mic and speak and have various news conferences. But what is the Trump campaign's plan to counter Democrats' messaging during the party's convention this week when all eyes are really on the DNC and what policies and what positions Democrats plan to take to try and earn votes?
Yeah, Jerika, Donald Trump is in a position that he hasn't really been in the past several years, which is kind of out of the spotlight, out of the headlines. Kamala Harris and the Democrats are in the spotlight this week. They've been in the spotlight for pretty much the past month, as she has shown in polling, especially, that she's consolidated and rallied the Democratic Party base. And so what the Trump campaign is trying to do this week, they're going on a battleground state blitz, essentially, starting here in Pennsylvania, which, as you know very well, Jerika, is our lights are going over.
Oh,
There's a little wind here.
You're having a Hillary Clinton moment.
Sorry about that. It's a little windy here, but basically, Pennsylvania is a key state. So they're starting here, talking about the economy. They're going tomorrow to Michigan. They're going to be in Arizona, Nevada throughout the rest of this week, trying to offer a counter program. The question is, can he stay on message?
Well, clearly you can stay on message even when the lights are falling down. I hope the crew is okay. And again, we thank you so much for your time and great interview.
We're all good.
Great interview there.
Crew. Yes, good.
Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you.